Hello, boys and girls. This assignment will help prepare you to write your snapshot writing story. Mr. Fritz's example of a snapshot writing story. A snapshot story is a descriptive, nonfiction, personal story about a short moment in time. Your story is memorable because strong emotion made this a lifelong memory for you. Example: describe what it was like to get your first puppy or when you made your first touchdown. This assignment focuses on a memorable moment over winter break. If you want to write about a different time, that's okay too. I had a memorable moment over break and wrote a snapshot story for you as an example. Please notice my use of dialogue. Each time a person speaks, I indent. That way, you can follow who is talking. Please also notice I avoid the term he said or she said. Yes, it is okay to use those words, but do so sparingly. That means not very often. Those words do not describe how words were used in a conversation. The story I am about to read to you covers about 5 minutes of time. My story is likely much longer than your assignment expectation. Try not to focus on not how much you write, rather, write enough to describe the moment so that the reader can feel the sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, and emotion of the moment. No, you do not have to cover all the senses. Just select a few to give the reader the feeling of being there with you. Here's my story. Title: A Code 3 Christmas. Zoo lights! Point Defiance Zoo has the best light show in Washington. Each year, our entire family has a reunion at the zoo to see the Christmas light display. As usual, it was amazing. I wish this story was about the zoo. It is not. What happened on the way home is the story. Stacy, sorry, but I really need to use the bathroom. I'm going to take the next exit. Seriously? You can't wait? So tired, my wife protested. Ha ha, old man bladder, my daughter Haley teased. I took the next exit and spied an AM/PM gas station and pulled in. I walked up to the clerk, who was assisting a customer. Hi, sorry to interrupt. May I use your bathroom? Get out, the clerk replied. I will buy something on the way out, I promise. Please, may I use your bathroom? I said leave, get out now. He pounded his fist on the plexiglass as he ordered me to leave the store. The clerk appeared distressed. Sorry, I'm not leaving until I know you're okay. Is this man threatening you? I gestured to the customer at the counter. The clerk stared at me, then at the customer, then back at me again. He looked terrified. The clerk's look made it clear I was interrupting an armed robbery. Adrenaline flooded my system. My urgency to use the bathroom vanished. My relaxed posture transitioned to a defensive stance as I turned toward the man at the counter. The man told you to leave, so leave. Go use the backside of the store if you have to go so bad, the man at the counter demanded. When he turned to tell me to leave, I noticed the handle of a gun sticking out of his pocket. The energy dynamic between them The energy dynamic changed when the man was aware I saw the gun. I was on the receiving end of a quiescent glare. I locked my eyes on the assailant while asking the clerk, Are you being robbed? Yes, he replied. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. I assessed two options. Stay close to the gunman for the tactical advantage of a hands on response if he attempted to access his weapon, or back away, exit, and call 911. I decided evacuating was the worst option as it exposed me as an easy target for the perpetrator to draw his weapon. Confronting was the best option given my proximity to the felon. You're under arrest. Keep your hands where I can see them. I figured one of two things would happen next. If he argued, then he likely had a fake gun. If he went for his gun, I would attempt a wrist lock and torque the weapon inward until the suspect was forced to release the weapon to me. What? You can't arrest me! He then used words that are not appropriate for kids. Sorry, kids, you get the redacted version of the story. He chose to argue. A good sign his gun was just a prop. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one shall be provided for you. Do you understand these rights I have given you? I figured Mirandizing him would scare the guy off. He was not scared off. So I commanded, keep your hands where I can see them. The man backed away, and I closed the distance. I knew if he was able to get out of arm's reach, he could access his weapon. He placed his hand on the weapon. I moved in to trap his wrist. He cleared the weapon from his pocket as my hands were reaching to disarm. As the barrel cleared his pocket, I realized it was a fake gun. I disengaged and backed up. Seriously? You're robbing a store with a toy gun? You need to leave before the police get here. He then pulled the trigger, producing a blowtorch of flame. So, it was a weapon after all. Sort of. I'm not impressed. Put that away before you hurt yourself. He put the torch back in his pocket and changed his position to a fighting stance. I adjusted my stance to counter his and switched to de-escalation tactics. I don't want to hurt you. Let's call it a night. You won't go to jail if you leave now. I was unaware that there were two robbers. Another man came around the corner with a black cloth over his hand, pointing it at me. You don't have a gun under that. You guys need to leave. He backed away when I called his bluff. The first robber swung his bag on my head while my attention was turned to his accomplice. I redirected my attention back to the first robber, while keeping the second robber in my peripheral vision. Hitting me with your purse is not going to help you. You both have time to leave before the cops arrive. Think about it. Now you have added assault to this crime. If you like prison, stay, or get out now before the cops arrive. I assure you, fighting me is not your best option. The men glanced at each other, nodded, and then walked out the front entrance. I turned to the clerk. Lock the doors! The clerk had a button under the counter. He hit, and the doors locked. I observed the men talking outside the entrance, making some kind of plan. Then they tried to open the door. Frustrated that they were locked out, they motioned me to come outside while shouting words not fit to print. I was on the other side of the glass, ignoring their demands while dialing 911. The operator answered. I need a code 3 response to AM/PM. Robbery in progress. Officer requesting backup. What is the address? The operator inquired. I have no clue. I pulled off the highway to use the bathroom. Look at your screen. Use the address from where the call was made. Send officers to that address. A few seconds later, the sound of sirens filled the city of Federal Way. I waved at the men on the other side of the glass. They bolted off into the darkness. The officers entered the store. I provided a written statement and pressed charges for the assault should the suspect ever be apprehended. Dispatch said you're a cop. What department are you with? The officer asked. I'm no longer a cop. I teach fifth graders now. I figured you'd move a little faster if I used that cop angle. True, the officer grinned. You stopped a bad thing from happening tonight. Good job. Do you need medical attention for the blow to your head? Nah, I'm blessed with a thick skull. I found his assault annoying, not painful. I told the perp that hitting me with his purse was not going to do him any good. That caused the officer to crack up. When I was done with the report, I turned to the clerk and said, I still need to use the bathroom. The clerk smiled and walked me back to the employee-only bathroom. As we entered the back of the store, the clerk said, You know, there were 4 of them. I think 2 of them ran off the back when you told that guy he was under arrest. This information made me feel a little sick to my stomach. I returned to the car. I can attest that the car ride home was far more frightening than what I had just gone through in the store. My wife and daughter were livid with my choice to confront the thieves. I did not realize they watched from the truck and called 911 before I did. According to Stacy, I was supposed to have left when the clerk ordered me to leave. The clerk was pounding on the plexiglass, telling you to get out. It's not rocket science. The store was being robbed. We knew it the moment the clerk told you to leave the first time. We figured you'd bolt back to the car, and call 911 like a normal person. But no. Instead, we watched in horror as you engaged the criminals. What were you thinking? We love you. That's why we are furious. Are you finished chastising me? Yes. Are you ready for the moral of the story? I said ruefully. I know I'm going to regret this. Okay, Andrew, what is the moral of the story? I got to use the bathroom. Stacy glared a moment, then smirked and reached over to hold my hand for the trip home. In the remote chance this ever happens again, I would make the same call. I was not going to leave the clerk alone in that situation, nor was I interested in making myself a target if I chose to flee. My training may be rusty, but I knew the odds were better if I intervened. Disclaimer: I am a trained law enforcement officer. That is the only reason I involved myself with a crime in progress. Do not, under any circumstances, involve yourself in a crime in progress. Leave the area immediately. Once in a safe location, call 911. Do your best to remember descriptive details about suspects and location. I'm guessing I used some vocabulary words in here that some of you who made it to the end of the story didn't know. So I made a little glossary. You may check out this glossary at your convenience to check out any definitions that you are not familiar with.